a sophomore effort from one of the UK's most unique pop-punk bands, a concept album about building a giant mountain, a punk record devoted to relationships, a throwback classic rock LP covering life on the road as a band and playing pool, and a second effort from a UK rock band created while sofa surfing. This is 5 to 9's Album of the Month episode for March 2024. I'm Andrew Belt, editor of the 5 to 9 blog, and joining me as always is Karl Blakesley of New Music Weekly and Kiley Larsen, the founder of Santa Fe-based record label Mañana Records. So, how are you both doing?
Fantastic.
Yeah, good to see you
Well,
both.
we like to hear. Karl, maybe not so much.
Yeah, a bit under the weather, but we're going to soldier through. Looking forward to it.
What we like to hear. So before we dive into the 5 records, let's recap our 3 music highlights from the month outside of those, which we're about to discuss. So I think, Kiley, we'll save your voice a little bit, Karl. What stood out for you from March?
Yeah, March, another great month for music. Starting locally with live shows. You know, every weekend was pretty amazing this month, but I'm going to pick one in which we hosted Death Rally from Denver, a band that I've gotten to know over the internet for the past 3 or so years, and it was fun to finally meet them in person. Did a Friday, Saturday night double show and had 2 different local openers. Friday night, we had Lyra Muse, who was just gorgeous, crazy synth textures and violin, and her voice was processed the entire time and just really otherworldly stuff. And then Saturday night, we brought in from the label Gold Tides, local legends, and they played their first show of the year and brought out a fantastic crowd. And it was a really, really fun show. But those two, kind of the yin and the yang to Death Rally's sound, and it was fun to do those 2 bills together. The second thing, I guess, would just be an announcement. We announced Strange Magic's new tape compilation coming out, Slightest of Hands. Just amazing, straightforward power pop. It's a compilation of the 4 albums that he put out last year. And we chose 22 of the best and put it on a tape. So, yeah, if you're listening to this and you're curious, please give the new double single Star Power and The Incredible Wonderlust a spin. We're getting a lot of great feedback on those 2 tracks and really enjoying that. And then album-wise, I got to give a shout out to my old dad's elbow for Audio Vertigo. Just I don't want to call it a comeback because they've never really gone away. But, you know, hearing Asleep in the Back when I was in high school, getting it off the local college radio station just really set me on this kind of, you know, over 2 decades fandom of Elbow, seen them a few times, and even went to a taping of Jimmy Fallon to see them play back when I lived in New York. But wow, Audio Vertigo, I would say Little Fictions was the last one that I really enjoyed. Giants of All Sizes and Flying Dream 1, the last 2, I enjoyed, but kind of wondered if they were ever going to get the pep in their step back. And boy, for Elbow, Audio Vertigo, some great lively stuff on there. And I would say their best record in a decade since the takeoff and landing of everything. And I also just saw that it debuted at #1 Your Way. So very happy for them, and well-deserved on just a great record.
The pep in their step back. Yeah, and that should be their what they go out with when promoting Audio Vertigo. And yeah, I know Karl and I are looking forward to. Karl might have already had a spin of the Strange Magic 22 tracks, which we'll definitely be looking to review for May the 3rd. I think that's right, May the 3rd. So Karl, what about yourself? 3 highlights from March.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely second that Elbow record. Completely agree with Kylie there. Definitely their best for a good while. Really enjoyed that one. In terms of my highlights, was actually torn whether to do more albums or gigs this month, because it's been a great month for both, but I'm landed on 2 gigs and 1 album. So first highlight was seeing the 1975 at the Forest National in Brussels. One of my favourite bands, but also my partner Hannah's as well. So when they kind of announced this final run of dates before going on this hiatus that they're on now, we knew we had to like catch them, as it might be like the last chance to see them for a while. So yeah, we looked at the UK dates, and typically it was all like awkward days, big venues. So we then looked at the EU ones and noticed that the Brussels venue was it was actually the smallest of the whole tour, 8,000 capacity arena. So that's even smaller than like the one that we have here in Notts. So it was one where it was like, okay, that's the date to go for, and obviously a good excuse to get away, explore a new city, never been to before as well. So yeah, that was the start of the month. Just an incredible show. The venue itself, obviously first time visiting, just superb. It was like a half bowl auditorium, and weirdly, like your ticket allowed you to sit anywhere, sit or stand wherever you wanted, basically. So it wasn't like allocated seating, allocated standing. So our original plan was to sit for the support and then venture down to boogie for the 1975, but we ended up with such good seats. We like stayed there for the duration. And obviously when you're in seats, you're kind of worried, like you don't want to stand up and dance if other people around you aren't going to do it. But thankfully, as soon as the first song kind of hit, everyone in the stand we were in just got up. Yeah, just meaning we could dance the night away without blocking anyone's view. So yeah, just a brilliant night. Yeah, they've been touring this show since the end of 2022. So it was pretty flawless by this point. All their touring band members got their own time to shine during the set. Their backup vocalist Polly performed like this really beautiful rendition of Jesus Christ 2005, God Bless America, which is the track that they do with Phoebe Bridgers on one of their albums. And it was just her on vocals, really beautiful moment. And yeah, just great celebratory evening. Fantastic crowd, set full of their best songs. And yeah, like I said, they've been on that tour since end of 2022, covered every inch of the globe. So full festival season's worth of touring in there as well. So still one of the hardest working bands around, and yeah, earned themselves a good rest after that one. So that was my first highlight. And then the second gig that I just wanted to mention was Creeper at the Lead Mill in Sheffield. As you both know, like Creeper at Rock City was one of my favourite shows of last year. Full of theatrics, drama. So yeah, when they announced the second leg of the tour, I kind of jumped at the opportunity to go see them again. And this time around, it was like, because it was smaller venues, they didn't have that big production. But honestly, it wasn't needed. They started the set with Cry to Heaven. Crowd singing at full volume from that moment onwards. Set list quite similar, I'd say, to what they played back in November, but reshuffled it slightly around. And yeah, I think the layout for this one actually might have worked a bit better. There was great flow to the whole evening. Really epic encore as well, where they played Further Than Forever right at the end, along with Misery, which is one of the popular ones off their first album. So yeah, great show. Reminded me of how much I love the Lead Mill as a venue too. I'm not sure if it's one that you've been to, Andrew. It was actually 2017 the last time I visited, so long overdue a gig there again. I'd say the best thing about it is when the show is finished as well, you can kind of continue riding the high as it goes straight into like the club night after. So they had like a Creeper after party going on in one room. They had like some old school disco tunes in another. And then, not like indie anthems just playing in the main room. So, we didn't stay out too late. But yeah, managed to get an extra hour in there of partying, which we don't do too much at my age. But yeah, when we eventually came out of the venue just after midnight, we ran into Creeper frontman William Gold, who was having his like post-show cigarette. So that was a really cool moment. Got to have a chat with him about the show and Nottingham last year, which was awesome. So yeah, just a really cool way to end the whole evening, and hopefully not too long before I'm back at the Lead Mill for another show. So that was my 2 gig highlights. And then in terms of the album highlight, I'll just shout out Bright Future, which is the latest solo record from Adrian Lenker. As Kylie knows, I'm not always the biggest fan of the Big Thief's work. You know, I'm quite hit and miss with those guys. The last one, enjoyed moments of that double album that they did in 2022, but ended up not completely gripped by it. But this one from Adrian really hit me for 6. Not a single second spared. Just each song more devastating than the last. So yeah, really, really beautiful record that's gone straight into my top 5 or 10 records for the year so far. So yeah, that was my 3 highlights.
Yeah, very good. Not been to the Lead Mill, but yeah, it's kind of held up as one of the top ones in the UK, a bit like Barrowlands in Glasgow. I don't know if King Tut's that for some reason is ringing a bell as well in terms of
Glasgow way as well.
Is that okay? So they're all up north. Rock City, of course, in Nottingham. So yeah, plenty which a voyage at some point, or pilgrimage rather. And yeah, some good exploration there, going off to Brussels and Sheffield. And yeah, Adrian Lenker as well. That's one which seems to be getting rave reviews, so one which would be worth trying out. So yep, typical for me, no gigs to report, but the albums I want to highlight. So firstly, there was The Tallest Room from Leeds shoegaze sectet Van Houten. Yeah, their debut record took 7 years to make it. So yeah, and I think those 7 years have paid off essentially. Reminded me of Bedroom's debut, and is actually completed by the same producer, which is Alex Greaves. There's sparse poetic lyrics, which kind of muttered quite a lot in the songs, but that is the style. And the main thing to highlight is the guitar soundscapes by trio frontman Louis Sadler, Jake Ribton, and Ewan Barr. That is the thing which kept me going back for more. Best 2 tracks on here, I would say, is I Only Want to Be With You, which is unlike most of the other ones. It's only 8 tracks long, this album, but this particular song is a 2-minute kind of indie rock blast, and just actually quite good when they play it straight. And then Head Straight, I thought had some kind of Radiohead-esque complex guitar arrangements, which was 2 of the best on a very impressive debut record. Then the other album, which was a highlight for me, wouldn't be expecting to say this, but the Dandy Warhols with Rockmaker. So, went into this one where I saw that they made a deliberate attempt to make a rock album, which, the frontman, Courtney Taylor basically said, people don't make these kind of raw rock albums anymore. So that's what they attempted to do, which kind of fills you with a bit of unease because that could go badly wrong. But actually this was one, okay, not a completely brilliant album, but one which more often than not really pulled it off. And it helps that there's cameos from Black Francis, from Pixies, Slash, who plays on I'd Like to Help You With Your Problem, definitely one of the highlights, which is very Velvet Revolver-like. He even managed to get 3 mini guitar solos in this one 3 or 4 minute song. So really,
yeah, was the problem they were missing the right guitar solo? I'll help you with your problem.
Yeah, they couldn't decide. Just really added something to it. And then the final kind of rock legend on this album they brought in is Debbie Harry, which is on the final song, which that one was one which didn't really do it for me. But Taylor's vocals, very Iggy Pop-esque, I think, here. Zia McCabe's bass I really like. It's very menacing throughout, and bristles on your headphones. And Peter Holmstrom does a very good job as the guitar player here. And yeah, other songs I really liked: Love Thyself, which reminded me of early Faith No More, and Real People, which included a bit of industrial guitar. So whilst it's kind of an all-out rock record, I think what it does show quite well is the variety within that genre, the subgenres, and yeah, was a pleasant surprise. Let's put it that way. And final highlight of the month for me, an EP from a LA-based duo, originally from Chicago, called Quiet Car. They're made up of Cam Cunningham, who's a composer, he does a lot of film scores, and Jordana, who's been in various outfits. And it's it's 3 tracks, so fairly slender for an EP, but for a debut, certainly left me excited for what they could do next. And yeah, it's kind of jazzy, cinematic math rock, which when it lands, I very much enjoyed. So they were my 3 highlights. But that's enough for everything outside of the 5 we're about to dive into. So yeah, we'll start off with our first album, Another Sky, with Beach Day. So this was one which won out in the poll. So thank you. And yeah, one of those where you really go, no, thank you, with genuine thanks there, because this was one which, if it hadn't been selected, I'm not sure I would have got round to be honest. And yeah, I was pretty much blown away. Kylie, on the chat, you mentioned how much you enjoyed it before I'd really got into it, and I thought, okay, because this is a band who first came across when they played the Are You Listening festival in Reading, as per usual. Go through the list of bands and make your decisions, and there was a song of theirs which I particularly enjoyed, Something Tree. I can't remember the first word, but that was a real good song, and I thought, okay, they're very interesting. The lead singer, Katrin Vincent, has this very unusual singing style, and that seemed to be one of their kind of USPs, kind of this almost deep style of delivery. And they seem to be generating a bit of interest. They then brought out their debut album, which was well received by the critics. And yeah, again, if it hadn't been for the Album of the Year website, I wouldn't have even known this was coming out, because both the Album of the Year and Wikipedia is what I look at. It wasn't on the Wikipedia list. This is relatively below the radar, I would say. And yeah, just seemed like a good one to add to the poll. And so here we go. Sophomore album. We subsequently have read about just what a triumph it was for the band to actually put this out. I mentioned at the top, so this is the band with the Sophomore album, which was created while sofa surfing. So Katrin Vincent was without a permanent residence for much of the creation of this album. They managed to record a lot of it in a crypt, which is quite a unique place to record an album and really get your groove on. And apparently they had to work in tandem with the church above them, so they weren't interrupting a funeral with some quite chunky guitar riffs. And yeah, I think that's fairly apt, because there is a lot of hard rock songs on here, as well as some very beautiful ones as well. And ultimately, an album I haven't enjoyed as much than this for a good long time. So yeah, I would even go back and yeah, okay, I'm kind of giving a spoiler about my intention of the 5 tonight, but yeah, best album for me since The Murder Capital was Gigi's Recovery, and just blown away. The guitar playing from Jack Gilbert, just magnificent. And the rest of the band come in really well. Naomi Lejeune on bass, Max Doolan on drums, and yeah, there's a bit of a narrative arc as well. They're kind of reaching for better days. There's quite a lot of relationship issues on here, which are sometimes, you kind of get all the shades. Sometimes it's jagged little pill type, hateful lyrics back to their former lover. Other times it's a bit more, okay, there's a bit more distance now, and we're taking a more philosophical take. And, there's a nice, I like that contrast, I think, on the record as well. So, a few highlights. I think A Feeling is just a seething track, heavy rock number. There's a real punk energy to it. I was actually the one which, alerted me to what might be on this album, which was just really quick pace rock track with fun lyrics about falling in the Thames. More punk energy, quite original lyrics, I think. Death of the Author reminded me a bit of Radiohead and Foo Fighters, and it's about being a captain of your own destiny, or even your downfall, with lyrics such as "Wait, why did I do this?" Burn the Way, very grungy. And it all builds up to this final one where they're starting to sort of, you can see they've moved beyond all of the chaos and which has come out of this unhealthy relationship by the end, and you end with Swirling Smoke, which is just didn't blow me away as a single, but actually on the album it really, really did. And it kind of almost has this Eurythmics type singing of I See, and it's kind of that real cathartic, moving to the next stage of their life moment, and quite clubby actually as well. So, a lot of variety in this record, even though it starts off very, very rocky. And yeah, there's not an awful lot more for me to say about it, apart from, what a triumph this is in every single way. And I very much see this ranking extremely high on my list by the end of the year. So, yeah, I don't know who wants to pitch in next on this one. I know, Kylie, you were impressed when we spoke. Maybe not as impressed as me. I've waxed lyrical there, but where did you land?
No, we're on the same page, and it's good to hear that that you think that this is maybe a little under the radar your way as well. Because I figured maybe I haven't heard of these guys, just from the ocean divide. Definitely didn't listen to their debut album, but yeah, this from going from a poll winner that I had never heard of to it immediately just brought me in. I mean, the title track is such a great opener, and mixing in the horns on the pain. I really, really enjoyed though too, Burn the Way and Psychopath, which I put in my notes here. Though the guitar on those tracks verges into like bad late 90s alternative radio, but the way that they've kind of regurgitated it here really works for me, and it reminds me a lot of like Science and Make Yourself era Incubus in a way. Just those massive guitar riffs, just I don't know, ask me another year, I might think that those songs are kind of corny, but right now I'm like, damn, yeah, I'm feeling this. I get a little bit of nostalgia, but a little bit of, it's just some real craftiness the way they've done that. And yeah, Karen Vincent, I don't think there's enough that you can say about her vocal work on this record. She kind of challenges, what the expectations are for a female singer, just very, very deep, almost like I kept on thinking of, to go way back, like Nico with way more range. Just, the band itself is great. This is a great record, but she definitely is what makes me keep coming back to it. And I haven't had a chance yet to go back to the debut, but I mean, damn, this was a great first impression, and I'm with you. It's one of my favorite records of the year so far.
Two big thumbs up there. So Karl, do you make it 3?
Definitely do. Yeah, I mean, great shout, Andrew, for bringing this to the poll. And having heard, the Sum 41 record earlier today, thank you for the voters for saving us from ourselves, I would say, as well. I think that was like a nostalgia pick.
Just know that in the chat, I was very mad about that pick. So
yeah, Kylie was the voice of reason. But no, really glad that this one ended up on the slate because, as you both said, it's a really stunning album. I mean, a bit similar to Ali X last month. Another Sky was like a band where I listened to their debut during lockdown, but then until you kind of added it to the slate for this month, completely forgot about them. So it was a welcome reminder listening to this record. As you say, got very quickly reminded of what was so enchanting about that debut, which, as you mentioned, Kylie, most notably, Katrin Vincent's vocals, just goosebumping juicing, I should say, at nearly every single turn. Her voice is probably worth the price of admission alone, but then you've got these, soaring soundscapes going on behind her, which, as you say, go from like the all-out rock tracks. You've got A Feeling, Auto, Burn the Way, Psychopath, and then you've got the, those more atmospheric slow burners kind of towards the back end. I Caught on Fire, Star Raymond, Swirling Smoke, as you mentioned as well. And for me, I'd say it's in those latter moments where the album really comes alive. While I still enjoy like the rockier tracks, the ones that stand out to me are the ones, like you say, where Katrin's vocals are taking center stage, rather than the ones where it's, those big heavy riffs that are being placed front and center. I mean, in terms of favorites, I love the opening and closing tracks. Beach Day, just a really uplifting curtain raiser. And then, as you say, with Swirling Smoke, I didn't realize it was actually a single, but it was a really dreamy, understated closing moment for the record. Kind of fades off into the night. I think it works perfectly. Really like those two. And then my two favorites, I'd say, are probably the duo right in the heart of the record. I Never Had Control and Death of the Author. Which again, Katrin's vocals just incredible. I think it's on I Never Had Control where it really hits home. You got the beautiful strings that kind of come in towards the end there as well. And then Death of the Author, just a great showcase for the whole band. Just builds to this like emphatic crescendo with Katrin's vocals powering over these like big climatic riffs. Just mind blowing. So maybe I'd say I wouldn't put it quite as high as you both into that, top spots for the year so far, but not taking anything away from it. It's a fantastic record. And I'd say that the one thing that maybe at times stops it hitting that next level for me is maybe in moments it is, like you say, Kylie, it does feel a bit safe and conventional with some of those rock tropes. But like I said, there's no denying this is a great sophomore outing. Not one bad track amongst the bunch. And some truly outstanding moments along the way there as well. So big thumbs up from me as well.
Lovely. So very high praise for Beach Day. Off to a flyer. So we move on to our second record. Mountainhead by Everything Everything. So a band who twice have made my album of the year. Arc 2013, and then back in 2022 with Raw Data Feel, the often mentioned AI album which they created, which I just felt, despite the kind of robotic sounding nature of it, was a very emotive record, and was everything at their best for me. So seeing Mountainhead come around, I felt I kind of had to, as such a recent album of the year for me. And yeah, you know, obviously with this one, there's another concept at play here, which was apparent with the opening single, which was Cold Reactor, where you see in the video they're all just with their hammers and tongs whacking three shades of you know what out of a mountain. And yeah, it's kind of the concept being that they're building this mountain, and almost like the futility of it, I suppose, which I suppose is a bit of an analogy for maybe where their heads are at in what we have here. So there was that one, Cold Reactor. Kind of said it didn't sort of do loads for me as a single. Then you know we had the end of the Contender and the Mad Stone, and then you know what's remarkable actually looking on Spotify is how consistent they are at bringing out a 54-minute album. So the Raw Data Feel was 54. I might be getting the wrong, but I looked at them and it was almost, it's by seconds. So maybe that's another little quirk. And knowing what they seem to be like and how yeah they approach music making, that could very much be their actual ambition as well. So yeah, you know, 54 minutes. It's a long old thing, but so was Raw Data Feel, and they really pulled it off there. Here again, 14 tracks, and yeah, ultimately, it's not a Raw Data Feel for me. It wasn't one I ended up loving. I think there's some Everything albums which you know I think are okay, and I think this one probably falls into that category overall. And actually, it was, you know, Cold Reactor ended up being one of my top songs off the album in this collection. The Mad Stone, I know both of you were maybe not so keen on, was actually probably my favourite track of all. Reminded me of Goldfrapp's Lovely Head. And to me that was kind of vintage everything, and I didn't feel like there was enough of that throughout the album. But you know, throughout there's some good ones. I'd say my main disappointment is towards the end, particularly City Song, which and I don't say this lightly, but it bored me. This one, you know, because Everything are such an inventive band, and I just feel that one it just didn't go anywhere, and found it really disappointing. And then The Witness afterwards, again, you know, what I will say for the album is that the lyrics and the kind of construction of it is the interesting thing about it, and I did enjoy sort of reading them as I went along. I just feel as the way they've conveyed this through the music doesn't quite live up to the concept and the lyrical efforts here. And yeah, you end up with one where I'd take a handful, which I'd go back to, but it's not one which I would put up there with their best. So yeah, but I have to go to the man who's wearing the Everything hoodie, who I'm sure will provide yes, perhaps a contrasting view. So Karl, what did you make of Mountainhead?
Yeah, I mean, like you, Andrew. Yeah, Raw Data Feel, one of my favorite albums of 2022. It was actually my runner-up that year to Sims and Kendrick, which is, yeah, it's going to be hard to top those two records. But yeah, I think whilst I enjoyed everything's output up until Raw Data Feel, that was the album that kind of put them up a level for me. Which is interesting because I know the record that everyone turns to is actually Get to Heaven, which, although I really enjoyed that record, it wasn't quite the light bulb going off moment that, you know, it was for a lot of people. You know, if, you know, I read this kind of discourse online, and like a lot of people kind of point to that as being their standout moment. But for me, you know, I wouldn't put it on that pedestal myself. Like I know a lot of the diehards would, but like you, I think if anything, Arc, the record before that, was the one that pulled me in more at the time than Get to Heaven did. But yeah, I'd say Arc was probably my favorite at that point. But then, like you say, in terms of Raw Data Feel, I think as well that record coming off the back of Reanimator, which for me that's their weakest record for me. You know, Raw Data Feel was just one that completely captivated me. Loved the direction that they took with it. Got those lush melodies. you know, these rich moments of clarity and amongst all the hilarious AI generated nonsense that's kind of going on in the lyrics at times. And yeah, just a lot of fun. I also ended up seeing them like live twice in the space of a week during August 2022, which I think is what kind of lifted it up for me. It kind of became the unofficial soundtrack to my summer, thanks to that kind of week. So yeah, I think like you, I had my trepidations going into this one, you know, assuming I wouldn't like it as much as the predecessor. But unlike you, I think after hammering it this month, it's actually starting to creep up on it. I wouldn't say it's quite there yet, but I think for me, this is actually the perfect companion piece to Raw Data Feel, you know, where that album was like a tapestry of ideas and sketches kind of focused in on our digital world. They followed it up with this, you know, abstract concept record that looks at, you know, humanity and humanity's relationship with nature and with each other. And they've done it through the lens of this, dystopian world centered around building this mountain. So I think for me, like conceptually and thematically, it's like, it's almost like you mentioned it being the same length, whether it's meant to be almost like a companion piece to Raw Data Feel, in the two kind of lenses that it's looking at things. But yeah, I think sonically it doesn't stray too far from what they crafted on Raw Data Feel. But I'd say the difference for me with this one is that I think this one's pulled together into a arguably more cohesive, ambitious, and in some ways a more fully realized project. Like I say, with, you know, the title almost alludes to Raw Data Feel, it being, you know, those collection of like great ideas that kind of came together, whereas this one seems like a more cohesive work to me. And yeah, I mean, the songs themselves are just fantastic. That initial opening run, you know, the end of The Contender and Cold Reactor, I feel like they're firm favourites already. Obviously, I saw them at their album launch show here in Nottingham, and everyone, you know, the album had only been out a week, and everyone was already singing along to them like they've been part of the set for years. So yeah, just really instant, really catchy, classic everything songs, I'd say. But then the album tracks surrounding those two singles, you know, Wild Guess, I think is a really wonderful opener. Buddy Come Over, and Are You Happy are probably like my two picks of the whole album. That brilliant, what's it, Elvis sitting dead on the toilet line in the chorus to Buddy Come Over. And the, you know, it's a golden age, I'm wearing half your face refrain that comes in as well. Yeah, I just think it's fantastic. The others I really liked. TV Dog reminded me a bit of, you know, Duet off Arc. You know, just with that quite minimalist string arrangement with the plucking strings. Reminded me a lot of that track. And then I think there's actually some great moments in that back end. Enter the Mirror, which they've since released as a single with some really cool like puppetry in the video. I think that's even leapfrogged Cold Reactor for me as my favorite of the singles. I think it's incredible. Dagger's Edge with that great kind of riff going on. And yeah, for me, the more I've listened to it, I think there's no duff moments here. Even Mad Stone, which, yeah, as we mentioned, I didn't rate it as a single, but it's since really grown on me. And the other one that I found quite great in at first, Don't Ask Me to Beg. Yeah, that one annoyed me initially, but now when it comes on, it's actually won me over as well. So yeah, like you say, it's almost an hour long, so it's a bit of a mission to listen to it, but fully, it's not stopped me playing it quite relentlessly this much, which I think is a telling sign to how much I'm enjoying it. And you know, I kind of mentioned, you know, when Wild Beast folded in 2018, it was like, for me, there was like the band that I was looking for to kind of fill that void. And I think everything have started to do that for me with those last couple of releases, Raw Data Feel and then this one. So yeah, for me, it's just another gem for their discography and a band I find steadily kind of climbing up my list of favourites. So I imagine I might be in the minority there, but yeah, that's what I thought of it.
Yeah, so strong praise. And now we move to Kiley, who you had flagged before, not really a fan of this band. Did Mountainhead change anything for you?
I mean, Karl, you call it a mission. I call it a slog. No, the funny thing about everything is that I've listened to all their albums since Get to Heaven myself, because they're so critically acclaimed, and every time one of their records comes out, it's got great reviews, and I say, hey, this is going to be the one that really talks me into what they're about. But I just continually have never been able to get into these guys. And I know that, you both are big fans. So I wanted to come at it, from a different angle with this album, and, try to get into it more. And as I said before we started taping this, I don't think we've had a album on this podcast that I have enjoyed this little, that I've listened to so many times, because I really wanted to pull some stuff out of it. But, in the end, Jonathan Higgs' voice, nothing personal, but it's not for me. He floats somewhere between like Dave Matthews and Roland Gift from Fine Young Cannibals, which, I'll take some Fine Young Cannibals, but it does not work for me. Whereas I think the reason I continue to check them out and listen to this album so much is that I, in the end, do really enjoy, especially this album, the synth pop of it all, the electronic elements, like, everyone outside of their drummer adding keyboard contributions. I think all three of those guys really put out some great stuff here, and the music itself, I do enjoy, and I'm with you. I think it does start out strong. I think Cold Reactor is it's one that, whether I wanted to or not, that a few times I've woken up and it's immediately stuck in my head. So obviously, I can't deny that kind of earworm. I really do enjoy that one. And, I can complain about Jonathan Higgs, but Buddy Come Over, where I think he's probably at his most Jonathan Higgs, I actually really enjoy that song as well. But yeah, the back half, you call it a mission. And I just, as much as I try, cannot get into the back half of this record. And I think it's interesting too that you pointed out, Karl, Don't Ask Me to Beg, as one that's kind of been a grower for you, because that one, to me, the lyrics that you guys have enjoyed, I have to pull out. I think this is the worst lyric of the year so far that I've heard. And it's, if I'm going to be tomorrow's bacon, you deserve a Michelin star. And I think that's
Genius.
The worst lyric.
Genius.
this year has given us Think You the Shit Fart by Ice Spice. And I still think that was my least favorite lyric I've heard this year. But I was driving the first time I heard that, and I'm glad I, didn't swerve the car and get in a wreck or something like that. Cause I had to go back and rewind it and say, did he really just say what I thought he did? Anyway, I digress, but yeah, it's still continuing to, I don't know, what is this, 4 or 5 albums of theirs I've listened to, and it just does not fully click for me. So yeah, unfortunately, the one for me this month that wasn't all that.
As I say, 6 is a charm. So next time they bring one out, I'm sure it will will finally land.
And I'll listen to it.
Even more times with less relish.
Yeah.
So yeah, a mixed bag. Karl, very much a fan. I thought it was okay, and Kiley is more perhaps in the thumbs down mode there for Mountainhead. So we move on to our third album. So Mannequin Pussy, which I know our friend Melonhead had to add in a few asterisks there. Yeah, Get to Heaven. This was your. No, sorry. We're not back to everything. Don't worry. I Got Heaven. So Karl, this was your pick. So over to you.
Yeah, so this was a summer festival season inspired pick. I think, similar to last month, it was a case where all the albums I was kind of most anticipating all got snapped up already for the 5, so needed to look kind of elsewhere for my pick. And, I'm kind of at that stage where I'm going through, festival lineups. One that I'm attending in June, Primavera Porto, checking out some of the acts that I don't know on the lineup, and Mannequin Pussy were a name that I've seen a lot but never really listened to before now. And I was, as I say, go through the summer festivals. They're on pretty much every lineup this year, not just Primavera, but pretty much every EU festival bill that I've seen. Also doing a standalone show in Knots at some point this year as well. So yeah, when I saw this album was coming out, listened to the singles and thought, let's go with this one for March. And yeah, I'm glad I did, because it's 30 minutes, no nonsense, punk rock greatness, 10 tracks. For me, all killer, no filler, and just, an absolute blast from start to finish. I've got to shout out social media pal Robin as well, who pointed me in the direction of their earlier work to check out too, because after listening to this one, I was quite keen to hear how it stacked up against their other work, conscious that they've been going now for 10 years, I think it was. So it's always good to get context of, how they've evolved up until this point. So I actually went back and listened to those, and the first 2 records, very raw, very ferocious. Both of them barely 15 minutes long. I think one was 17 minutes, one was 19 minutes or something. So yeah, about as punk as you can get. There's a great title track on there called is it Cunt Eastwood? Which it was one of those ones where I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a punk album when I'm looking at it. But yeah, then their album prior to this one, Patience, which was I think it was their first on Epitaph, which is the record label they're on now. So yeah, self-released the first 2, obviously moved on to the bigger label, and that's where you can start to hear, I'd say, a bit more musicality come through on that record. A bit more songcraft starting to come in, obviously a bit more polished too, with it being on a bit bigger label. So yeah, definitely Patience was that transition, I think, from a rough and raw, super angsty punk outfit to what they present now on I almost said Get to Heaven, I Got Heaven. Which is which is this punk rock behemoth that I think strikes a real great balance between the heavy and the soft kind of throughout the record. It reminded me a lot of Visions of Life era Wolf Alice. You got the moments of like raw power and aggression in one breath, and then these moments of quite stark beauty the next. And it feels like it shouldn't work together, but it does. It's like you get that rush of adrenaline, and then you get that moment to catch your breath. And I think how they piece it together in the track list just helps it to flow quite perfectly as well. We was mentioned last month about the Idols record, and the sequencing was maybe a bit lopsided on that one. I think by comparison, this is a good example of how putting those songs in the right spot maybe give them that additional heft that they might have missed otherwise. So yeah, just really well put together. And in terms of favourites, I'll shout out the opening track, which is the title track, which go into fun lyrics from this year. Arguably, we go from the everything lyric to what if Jesus himself ate my fucking snatch.
One of the best of the year.
Yeah, which is definitely up there. And yeah, as you can imagine, I burst out laughing the first time I heard that, and still laugh now whenever I hear it, because I'm childish and immature. So the rest of the lyrics on that song, quite dark, So I wouldn't know if it's intentionally funny or not, but yeah, the madness of the image gets me all the same every time I hear it. So yeah, that's a great song. Loud Bark immediately after, terrific. Nothing Like in that first half as well, terrific. And then the ones in the back end I really like, Softly and Split Me Open, which again are those more kind of tender moments on the record. The one that again initially didn't click with me was Okay, because that is pretty much, as I've mentioned it there, is pretty much the song. They just repeat that over a really heavy riff. But no, I think even that song like has its place on the record. A real kind of short, sharp, couple of minutes blast within the center of the record. So yeah, as I said, not dull moment to be had. The whole album seems to go by in a flash. Just one of those that rushes in, punches your head off, and then scurries off into the night again. And yeah, had me reaching for the replay button as well. So glad, again, one of those that just glad that we put it on the list here, and it's ended up being one of my favorites this month.
There we go. So pleased that you chose I Got Heaven. Kiley, did you get Heaven with this record?
Yeah, I mean, as I kind of have with these guys since their debut, I think them and another band that we're going to talk about are why I would say, and I've said this for the last decade at least, that I think Philly is the most interesting music city in the United States right now. Just a variety of genres. The scene itself isn't necessarily all the same idea, and you've got all these diverse different bands coming out of there. And yeah, I've always loved Mannequin Pussy, and I think for me, Patience was the one in 2019 that where they really kind of clicked, moved out of the straight hardcore idea. And then EPs often get forgotten and passed over, but I think Perfect as well, that came out a few years later, was in my top 10 EPs for that year. So yeah, I was very happy that Karl chose I Got Heaven. And I think this is more development for this band that, they come out and slap you in the face with that first track, but there's some good pop moments on here as well. In the end, I don't have many notes on this record, but I also really enjoyed it, and I've had it on repeat, and it's one of those that, unlike everything, it's not a mission. It's not a slog. You put it on and it's over before you know it, and I can't ask for much more than that. So yeah, I think they walk this nice fine line where they're on Epitaph, as Karl mentioned, and that's pretty poppy for a punk label, but at the same time Epitaph continues to put out great stuff like this, so I think that's a good home for them. Changed up producers on this album too. They'd worked with Will Yip on the last few, which I think if you look at his discography, fits into that. And John Congleton on this one, not as familiar, but he's a Grammy winning producer, so the budgets are being put into these albums, and I think the songs deserve them. And just another stellar album from Mannequin Pussy. Love these guys.
Very good. So yeah, both of you there saying you got Heaven from this record. I mean, when you put it on for the first time, it really sort of rips your head off. As I think you acknowledged, Karl. I have not come across Mannequin Pussy before, and I think it's like a little bit of a while to get used to some of that abrasiveness, which I suppose I don't listen to as much as I used to. But yeah, you've got, it's both sides, and I think I probably ended up preferring some of the poppier moments on here. In particular, I Don't Know You, which just a really lovely track about the remoteness of the other person they're referring to in this song. And then you add a bit of grungy guitar to beef it up as well. But what I think, you know, I've got this band listed a few times in my notes here. The Distillers is who they really reminded me of. A band who, I mean, put out precious few albums back in the day, really. Only two, and still kind of living off those now, really, when you see them at festivals. But that's where, you know, I think back to Drain the Blood. Was that the name of that particular album? But that was the main single off their last one, 2003. And there you've got that kind of nice poppy songs, but also this quite heavy hardcore elements as well. And whilst I don't think that it's as good as that, and I was a big fan of the Distillers back in the day, yeah, there's certainly, you know, a lot of very good tracks. I mean, I Got Heaven. I mean, you beat me to it. I thought, I'm sure we all had it in our notes, that particular line about JC, and yeah, again reminding me of our November episode with Creeper, and another kind of blasphemic, if that's a word, lyric.
He gets up to a lot of mischief on this pod, does JC?
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
He is risen and he's come back to this shit.
Not again. Not again. I mean, the title track is a great opener. Really, really good. Sometimes, actually, Best Coast, I had a few likenesses I found with a few of the songs. Probably the popular one. Sometimes was one which I had up there. And okay. I really enjoyed that one. I think the elements where it just was okay for me was maybe some of the more the shorter kind of, you know, there's Of Her, which is a 90-second blast, Aching, which is reminding me a bit of Motorhead, I suppose. But as I said, that was just like Of Her, which preceded it, but with better riffs. Yeah, I think there's a few which were like that, which didn't do as much for me as sort of three quarters of the record, which I think is very, very good. But overall, as a first impression of this band, yeah, I Got Heaven. I enjoyed. A good addition, definitely, and yeah, I think between the three of us, it's a very strong review and praise for it. So, on to album number 4. And this is Sheer Mag with Playing Favourites, which was Kiley's pick. So over to you.
Yeah, I mean, as I was just mentioning, Philly, here's just in my book for the last 7-8 years now, why that town is just punching above their weight with bands, because Sheer Mag, you know, does it get any better than straight up rock and roll, garage, power pop from the beginning? These guys came out of the gate with 3 fantastic EPs that, you know, put onto the compilation of those EPs. I think it would be, you know, one of the best albums of the last decade in my book. And everything that's followed since, Need to Feel Your Love and A Distant Call, just like when those records come out, I have them on constant repeat. And so Sheer Mag, you know, at the same time, has kind of always felt underrated in my book, obviously, with that kind of praise. Smaller labels and, you know, working their way through the industry. But, you know, this one here, Playing Favorites, when they announced that this album was coming out and put the first single all lined up out, they also announced that they were on Jack White's Third Man Records now. And it's nice to get this record that has the budget to it while still staying true and raw to their sound. I mean, this is, you know, when they say they don't make them like they used to, you know, this is one of those albums for you. I know people love to hate on them, and I don't love them as people, but this reminds me a lot of Kiss and just some great 70s throwback rock and roll. Um, for me personally, the entire thing, uh, title track, Eat It and Beat It, has constantly been stuck in my head, all lined up. I Gotta Go, just over and over. Tina Halliday is a phenomenal front woman, and she crushes it again on this record. But for me, it was I think it has been released as a single, but Moonstruck to me is a little bit of growth and maturation on their part, starting out with the kind of lo-fi pedal steel country thing and just moving into a straight 80s bop is awesome. And that and Mechanical Garden gets a little more experimental. So kudos to them on that one. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a bad note on this record. It's another one that is quick as hell, and you've got, let's be realistic. Mechanical Garden probably isn't a single, but most of these songs are single worthy, and they should be getting much more attention than they are still. Just fantastic band, and long live that Philly rock scene. It's great.
Karl, what did you make of playing favourites?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, second dose of Philly Philly rock this month, and yeah, another new discovery for me. I think it was Eat It and Beat It was the one that you shared prior to the album dropping, Kylie, and immediately listening to it, it definitely had all those hallmarks of like one of your recommendations. Those classic guitar sounds at the forefront. An instant like timelessness about it, and where it just sounds like a track that you know you've known you've known about it your whole life. Basically, it's a track from like years gone by, and I think that's a great characteristic for a song to have. Just that warm familiarity to it, even though it's something brand new. Um, yeah, few artists can do it, but definitely got it with that track, and I'm pleased to say, yeah, pretty much carries on like that for the rest of the record. Some outstanding riffing throughout. You obviously mentioned there that this is their first on Jack White's label, and you can definitely hear, some of those guitar aesthetics, kind of synonymous with him coming through at certain points as well. But yeah, just really, fantastic collection of songs, I'd say. My one criticism, I'd say, was particularly in that first half. I would say that some of the song structures can feel at times a bit by the numbers. Just because I think it's because they're like chugging along at one pace for a lot of it. But I think when those guitars eventually do kind of shift into second gear, you have those solos that come in and kind of take flight, usually towards the back end of the track. That's where, for me, it becomes really quite dazzling. But yeah, I mean, the three best moments are the same as kind of you just mentioned there. Moonstruck, just so damn catchy, very different to anything else that's on the record. Fantastic groove to it. Mechanical Garden, as you say, really psychedelic, a bit experimental. And then the other one I really liked was Golden Hour, which just has got those amazing like bluesy riffs that run all the way through. Just a really fun track. And I think after that, that is probably where it slightly drops off for me. I think those last three, by that point, I was kind of like, okay, it's just giving me more of what I've already heard up until that point. I think that's more maybe because of the other albums that we've had this month, where it was like a bit more diversity. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the only downside that I've got on this one, is that it can be just that one pace at times, but overall, I think what it lacks in diversity, it makes up for, as I say, with some truly mind melting guitar work. Yeah, that's the draw to this album for me. The front woman that you mentioned as well, great vocals, all the way through. And yeah, I think while there's not, compared to some of the other records, there's maybe not too much lyrical or conceptual content to sink your teeth into, the sonic pleasures, I think, that you get with this record more than enough to make it worth your time. So yeah, another great recommendation, this one.
Yeah, and I think really the way you summed it up, Karl, is probably how I feel about it as well. Yeah, it is that classic rock sound. I've got listed here AC/DC, Thin Lizzy. Also, when it comes to Christina Halliday's vocals, Jackson 5 on a few of them.
Yeah,
I really
true.
do get that. On Don't Come Looking and Moonstruck, they were the two which I thought were very Jackson 5-esque. So you got that real kind of retro feel, which is, the whole album has got that. And I'm sure, I haven't dived back into the discography, but I'm sure, Kiley can perhaps confirm, that's probably their modus operandi. And there's nodding of your head. So yeah, I'll take that as read. And yeah, I think, you can't argue when it really lands. Eat It and Beat It. That is just a hell of a song. So I say AC/DC vibes. The guitar is like something like Beastie Boys' "Fight for Your Right" or even "Black and White" by Michael Jackson. A lot of Jackson, yeah. But only the good side of that on the music, musicality. But I think that's where it comes together the best for me. I think the opening 3 tracks really, get you really into the groove, playing favorites. Kind of a touring song, I can't sit around at home where I don't belong is quite sad actually. That they don't, it's like touring perhaps has become so embedded that they don't feel settled when they're off touring. And so we've got that one, Eat It and Beat, as we've discussed, and all lined up again. Kiley, you mentioned that one, and that was what I referred to in our introduction about finding solace playing pool in a bar. I mean, that is the kind of what's being discussed, and sometimes that's all you need. Those 3 are great. I think the middle, they're not as kind of strong. The songs, although I do really love what they did with Mechanical Garden, and that one, it really does just turn your head a little bit, and you're like, okay, there isn't something wrong with the album. This is where they've gone with it, and I think that was a really nice kind of palate cleanser at that stage, just to take your mind elsewhere from I think Karl mentioned sometimes it can be in its lane, very stuck to that, which is all good. Nothing's bad on this record at all. But yeah, after a while, I think you probably crave a bit of a change up, and Mechanical Garden kind of delivers that. And then my other highlight was Tea on the Kettle, which it's just a lovely, sweet song. Sharing love with an empathetic lover here, feeling that peace within their company, and just a sweet chorus. And again, I think that's only like 2.5 minutes or something, but it just ticks all of the boxes in terms of what you want from a great pop song. The standout for me with this band and on this record is really the guitar playing. So you've got Kyle Seeley on lead guitar and Matt Palmer joining on rhythm, and they absolutely knock it out of the park on this album. With the vocals, I was sometimes loving it, other times it just wasn't for me at times, and that can happen as we had with the everything. Jonathan Higgs is someone like that, but I wouldn't say to the point that it puts me off the band at all, because like I say, on some songs I thought Christina Halliday's vocals were excellent. I think it was only maybe some of the more Jackson 5 like ones which I didn't like as much. But overall, yeah, enjoyable. And yeah, some absolute bangers on here which have gone straight into my best of 2024 playlist. So yeah, and what I'd like to see on their next one is that like each of the songs sort of reach that same level, and then you'd have a really quite amazing proposition. So yeah, like I say, similar to Karl. So broadly, no bad words to say, I think, between us, really. And yeah, another strong record for March. And now we come to our final one. And it's Where's My Utopia from Yard Act. So this was selected by Gemma Crockwell, who writes for 5 to 9, who writes for Left Lion. I mean, Karl, she's your contact essentially. So and you're going to be leading anyway, so maybe you can fill in the rest of the bio, and then lead us on to Yard Act.
Yeah, so yeah, a great pick from Gemma, who's what she's done with Left Lion over the last couple of years. Obviously, actually gave 5 to 9 its first piece of published press, which is how I sort of came to start writing for those guys as well. So yeah, internally grateful for her and the opportunities that she's given, and grateful for her for picking this record by Yard Act, because I think going back to this date, or going back to their debut, I'd say it was kind of like a classic January release where I remember listening to it, really raving about it in my review, saying, oh yeah, this will be one of the best debuts of the year, saying it'll be up for the Mercury Prize, which I think it was that year.
Yeah.
But then by the time December came around, I think it barely made it into my top 50 of the year. So it was one of those that, in January it sounded great, but as the year went on, it didn't really stick with me compared to some of the other records that year. And I'll be honest, I haven't really been back to it, I think, since it came out. So going into this one, I think it was fairly mild expectations, I would say, but also with the knowledge that, they may potentially be stepping things up this time around. They released that single, The Trenchcoat Museum, which was like this 8-minute dose of like heady electronica, which was, I thought this record was going to be like a sharp left turn. But then when that track wasn't announced for the record and they released Dream Job, which I thought at the time was kind of more in line with what they had given us on the Overload, maybe like more of a gradual step. I thought to myself, okay, maybe this isn't the radical shift that I think it's going to be then. But yeah, having to listen to this one a lot this month, I think it is a big shift from their post-punk roots. I think it's a very much a record where they sort of come out with a statement, you think you know the band that we are, and they completely, rip apart those expectations, and for the better as well. There's bits of pop on here, there's bits of soul, there's bits of disco, there's bits of funk, while still managing at the same time to maintain their own identity throughout the record as well, which I think, it's a hell of an achievement. I've seen lots of comparisons to, Pulp, Gorillaz, which I think are certainly, they're certainly there. You can definitely hear those coming through. But I think thanks to James Smith, I think it always still feels like a Yard Act record. He's got quite a unique, way with words, and the way he obviously sort of sings through the songs as well, like he's just having a conversation with you. But yeah, immediately it was like, compared to the Overload, this is a big step up in sound, in ambition, and in the quality of the songcraft as well. It's definitely an album that takes a couple of listens. I think, we were talking about it in the chat, and I think we were all left lukewarm after that first play. But I think it's one that I found that, the more I return to it, the more that I get out of it. I still think in places, it can be a little indulgent. Blackpool Illuminations, for me, that song's probably going to be a favourite for a lot of people. For me, that's where it strays into maybe slightly indulgent. I think a lot of the stories are personal and specifically about being in a band. So I find, while they're always interesting and, it's quite yeah, it's quite interesting to hear like their story and their journey, but you know, they're not always going to be the most stirring or relatable songs because of that. I think your interest in the lyrical content will be determined by how much you care, you know, about their journey that they've gone through, rather than something you can, you know, kind of connect to your own life, which you can obviously can with a lot of songs. But yeah, for me, in terms of the Sonic delights, that's what's kept me coming back. We Make Hits, you know, that was one of the singles that grabbed my attention in the build up. Just super catchy, great guitar groove running all the way through it. Just real kind of tongue in cheek choice of a single. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Down by the Stream. I'm not sure if you got this, Kylie, but it reminded me a bit of Danny Brown.
Yeah.
In the sense that you've got this kind of bizarro hip hop beat that sounds like no one could make a flow that would fit over the top of it, but somehow James kind of pulls it together and makes it work. The Undertow might be my favorite of the whole record. That's the one that's got like the biggest pub vibes, I'd say. James's vocals on there, those great strings that kind of come through. And yeah, I mentioned Dream Job at the top. I didn't enjoy it as a single, but I've grown to love it. Again, just great character to that song. And I really love that final minute where it comes in with that God knows what you're talking about passage. That just gets lodged in my head. So yeah, I think that opening 5 tracks is just fantastic. And, you know, there's some great stuff in the back end too. When Laughter Stops, you've got Katie J. Pearson turning up on that track. I think her voice works wonderfully with the, you know, the thematic content of that song. David Fulis, which is like a a really random cameo on that song as well. I think he's on one of the other tracks as well as like a bit of a narrator. Again, just a great little touch throughout the record. Grifter's Grief was kind of like, you know, just that full throttle bit of punk that they kind of throw in at the end of that song. Again, just really tongue in cheek, just really self-aware nod to, you know, what people expect from them. I thought, you know, moments like that throughout the record, I think are just fantastic. And then the one at the end of the album, Vineyard for the North, just a really kind of triumphant closer. Got that gospel like refrain of was it Mother Nature bring me water that comes in at the end. I think it's just a great way to round up the record. And yeah, and I'd say as well, the way it's stitched together, each track seamlessly segued into the next one, just makes for a really thrilling listening experience. So yeah, one that as I say, I have quite mild expectations for, and I think they've really kind of over-delivered. I think of all the bands of the kind of post-punk boom that we've had in recent years, Yard Act were probably the one that I'd earmarked to disappear as quickly as they arrived. But yeah, they've made me look foolish because with this album, like I said, they've escaped the confines, I think, of that post-punk tag and shown that they've got plenty more to give. So yeah, for me, this is a phenomenal sophomore record, and yeah, can't wait to see where they go next.
Yeah, I mean, exceeding expectations. I think I'll dive in next, and then because they are a very, don't know, they're very British band, I would say. And then I think we were chatting about some of the lyrics with Kylie in the chat and say, you know, how does that work across the pond? Yeah, I think quite you know, unique in that way. And I did use the post-punk tag as well and the intro as well. So maybe we should loosen our tags for them. But yeah, exceeding expectations. I have to agree. I was nodding away a lot to what you were saying, and yeah, first listen, I was not sure, and there are still songs on there which I don't think have fully landed, but actually, given it time, I've really grown to enjoy it a lot. An Illusion, I think the opening track. I mean, well, just briefly how I feel about the band. Just Whistle Stop Tour. They were one of the bands I was really excited about before they brought out the album, because they had this like 4 or 5 songs. They were quite didn't show any photos of themselves, but there was just their typical Yard Act logo, which accompanied all of the 4 tracks before they brought out the debut album. We got to know who they were, and they were really enjoyable. Fixer Upper, they're like some really, and they were a band who, yeah, I was just very excited for when they would, I thought this is going to be my album of the year when it comes out. And I think, as you kind of alluded to as well, the debut album was, it was good. And actually, I was, probably because my expectations are so high, I was disappointed at the beginning. And yet when revisiting it for the Mercury Prize, I actually grew to quite enjoy it and see it as valid in that list. But I feel with what they've done here, they've kind of picked up the ball from what they did with those early tracks and kind of pushed the boundaries a bit, whereas they did go a little bit safe with the last one. Perhaps the only difference being that the longer tracks, like the Poppies one from the last album, which I absolutely loved. I think when you hear it, kind of a similar one on this second album, it's maybe doesn't punch as much. Blackpool Illuminations didn't. I think it's decent, but nothing more really, and it's a bit overlong. But what they do musically here is pretty fascinating, and yeah, my favorite is the opener, An Illusion, which was quite trip hoppy. Talking about struggling to cope with life on the road, melancholic, reality not matching expectations, and that kind of sums up the lyrical content throughout. Which good concept, I suppose, and they do explore this in a variety of ways, particularly with childhood memories, which yeah, like I say, takes a while to kind of get into that groove with it. We make hits. I think I got here kind of great, kind of awful. But ultimately I put it in the good pile. But like there's parts of it, particularly I just really don't like that kind of 90s share like overlay on the vocals, and that's what they put over, which I know they're kind of doing it ironically, but it just it's kind of icky to me. But actually the rest of that track I really enjoy, and I think they deliver on. The Undertow I think is a great shout as one of the best on the album, as you've referred to, Karl, and Dream Job enjoyed as well. Petroleum is one I which comes back on quite a lot, just on the algorithm, as it were, and that's one which I'm not skipping. And yeah, Vineyard for the North is a great way to close it. So yeah, it's another album, I think, essentially with the exception of the Another Sky album. I think with all 4 of the other ones, I didn't love all of the tracks, but it was kind of in that 3/4 bracket. And again, Yard Act's whereas My Utopia is in a similar space, but probably slightly above the others in terms of how many were on the higher track. And yeah, it's just enjoyable to see them sort of explore so many different ideas here, and yeah, break out of certainly the confines of the debut one, which yeah, I think, as you say, played it safe. So yeah, very pleased, exceeded expectations. Don't need to say much more. There's the view this side of the pond. Now I hand it over to our friend in Santa Fe. So for what you make of it, Kiley.
Pleasantly surprised myself as well. As you guys know, the Overload, I felt that Yard Act was way late to the party on the British post-punk revival thing going on, and thought it was critically way overrated. And then I kept on thinking about this interview that James Smith did while I was listening to this record, because after the Overload came out, I don't remember who it was with, but he said in there, well, yeah, we're not really a post-punk band, and we just did it because that's what's cool at the moment, essentially along those lines. And then I got even more mad about that record, and just kind of like writing these guys off. And yeah, Trenchcoat Museum, kind of a surprise last summer that I don't know if I loved it, but I was intrigued. And so Where's My Utopia kind of just, I think my expectations were below both of yours, but I was open to it after that single. And yeah, I mean, for all the heavy lyrics, this is just a fun dance, kind of disco. Um, not necessarily stylistically, but what this album always keeps reminding me of is like Talking Heads and David Byrne, in the sense of uh there's some adventure to it, and a little bit of a left field. And so I think on the Overload, where they were just in this lane that had already been established, Where's My Utopia really gets into, I don't know, is this what this band is supposed to sound like? Because it seems to me, that they're onto the right path. And Karl, you mentioned like the comparisons to Gorillas, and it makes sense because Remy Kabaka Jr., who's the drummer for Gorillas, produced it. And so, and on that front, I think this is way more fun and interesting than many of the last Gorillas records. And so it's kind of fun to have this next step for that influence. Overall, I agree with pretty much everything you guys have said. So I'm not going to waste the time, but for me, the highlight of the album is When the Laughter Stops, because it's a great song, but Katie J. Pearson has been one of my favorites. Her debut came along in the cold of the pandemic and was very comforting during that time when a lot of music wasn't. And I thought her sophomore record was fantastic and just one of my favorite voices in music right now. So it's fun to have her teaming up with them on this dancier rock song that, that one in particular is like somewhere between like Confidence Man and B-52s. Just I think, yeah, they did just release that as a single, but I mean, to me, I would have led with that one for this record. Really just gives you a good idea of where this thing really went. And yeah, I mean, I've been recommending this record and listening to it all the time. All these albums this month, especially because they came out at the beginning of the month, which is very easy. Thank you. Just everything this month, this is right there with it, that I've really enjoyed just digging into these records and listening to them over and over. And so, who knows what's next for Yard Act? It could be something completely different, but at this moment in time, I think they, an Americanism, they hit it out of the park.
Very good. So, yeah, we are liking Where's My Utopia, but how much when we compare with the other four? So, we move on to the verdict, and I think we'll go with the same order we had at the top. So we'll go Kiley, Karl, and then I'll do the last votes.
Yeah, for me, everything was the only stinker this month. So I'd put it at 5. Mannequin Pussy, some other months could have been higher. Put it at 4. Yard Act at 3. Sheer Mag at 2, and then Another Sky at 1 for me.
Okay. Karl.
Well, mine's very different straight out the gate. So, yeah, at 5, I've got Sheer Mag, which for me, fun record. But yeah, as Kylie said, some seriously tough competition this month. Number 4, I've actually got Under the Sky, just because I find myself more drawn to the others at this moment in time. Number 3, Mannequin Pussy. And then the top 2 I keep flip-flopping with, but I've landed on 2, Everything, and then 1, Yard Act, just because, yeah, I think it's more of a step up from their previous record, is kind of how I've justified it there. But what a solid month.
Yep, and have to agree that I didn't dislike any of these albums, so pretty difficult. I also had Sheer Mac in fifth. There's some brilliant tracks on here, but just not as many as others. Fourth, I had Mannequin Pussy. Third, I had Everything. Second for me was Yard Act, so pushed it close. But yeah, I'm with Kiley. My top one for this month, Another Sky. Just looking at, have I miscounted? Yard Act was third for you, Kiley.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 3, 5, 4, 5, 4, 9, 3. Okay, 5, 5. We have a split, but as per usual, the split is between Another Sky and Yard Act, and with two of us choosing. This is exactly like March last year with Lies. So you two had Lies as your pick on that split, and tonight it's myself and Kiley who are repping Katrin and the Another Sky band. So there we go. Very close, and we thought it would be in our discussions beforehand. So huge congratulations to Another Sky with Beach Day winning our March album of the month, and actually continuing the reign of female British-led artists who won each of our first 3 albums of the month. That will not be possible, though, next month, where we have Humble as the Sun by Bob Vylan, I Think I Might Be Grown by May Krell, The Fall of Sue by Owen, All Born Screaming by St. Vincent, and Only God Was Above Us by Vampire Weekend. Also look out for our poll where we'll be asking you to vote for the 5th album we'll be reviewing in May. And as ever, you can stay up to date with what we're up to by following 5 to 9 on Twitter and Instagram, New Music Weekly via @NewMusicKarl on Twitter, Mama Mañana Records via @Mama Mañana Records on Instagram, and Blinded by the Floodlights via @BFloodlights on Twitter. Thanks for listening.